We have 802,000 employees plus in the supply chain sector across Canada, and we also have very significant labor workforce shortages coming at us with the demographics changing.
We know that there is going to be a significant professional driver shortage over the next few years, in part because of demographics and in part because of demand for our services.
It's a fact that people with disabilities are underrepresented in the workforce. They're often, there's a high proportion of them who are unemployed, often qualified, but unemployed.
And now in a new economy where things are changing, technology is changing, it's a global environment, for organizations to conceive of where they're going to go and where they're going to get the growth, the focus really is on people.
The Building Inclusive Workplaces project is a federally funded project from the Minister of Labour. They gave the Van Horn Institute a grant to look at increasing and improving inclusion in the supply chain sector.
So diversity is one of the answers to that question, because we know that the traditional areas where workers have come from for the trucking industry are no longer viable. So we're going to have to move to different groups, and that includes women, that includes youth, Aboriginals, and New Canadians.
Why wouldn't you have a person in a wheelchair who could succeed in IT? Why wouldn't you have somebody who's working for a radio station who happens to be a person who's blind? These are things that, we don't see a lot of in society, and then when it's brought in front of individuals, they will look at it and go, yeah, I guess this could work.
So the payback to us, from a business point of view, is retention. Our culture in our organization has really changed as well, because a lot of the employees have really gotten engaged. They enjoy some of the people that we have working for us, particularly the individual with intellectual disabilities. Like they're some of the most popular employees within an organization. Everybody looks out for them.
And also a positive brand building. So, when you have a satisfied employee, he would definitely go and tell others, saying, the companies I work for is great, and I'm being valued, I'm being respected at the workplace.
The tie-in there is that if you do that, you're more profitable. If you do that, you actually have a better bottom line revenue. You have a 39% higher customer satisfaction rating. You've got a 22% decrease in your employee turnover, and turnover can cost companies millions of dollars in training and education.
We use this more in a human rights situation where, we got to make sure that we are respectful with the people that we work with, and also, our client base and such.
2011, early 2012, we had some very serious public allegations, lawsuits filed in terms of women coming forward, current and former police officers within the RCMP, even some civilian members, saying, making allegations of sexual harassment and bullying and general harassment in the workplace. It became sort of a crisis for us and a catalyst for us actually to change the way we were doing things, and actually to examine really what was going on in the organization. How do we promote? How do we select? All those sorts of things to make sure that there were no real barriers in place that were actually holding people back. You need to be courageous, because when you're pushing forward to talk about being inclusive and doing things differently, you're going to get challenged.
So the big challenge for us was going out and finding creative ways of finding the people, but at the same time, managing our recruitment process so that we could accommodate people from certain designated groups.
Definitely a lot of resistance from the supervisors or the operators. Say if we get a regional accommodation based on religion, so if somebody has to, cannot come to work, because some of our shifts operate on Sundays as well, so can't come to work on Sundays because they have to go to church, or cannot come on certain times because they have to pray 5 times a day.
If there are sort of notions about targets or quotas or encouraging one group, then there's always a perception that another group is going to suffer, right? It's always going to be sort of discriminating against another group. Some group is going to lose. So we didn't spend enough time in the early days to really talk about why it matters and how it makes us better as an organization. So those conversations are occurring a little bit later in the game, which is fine because it's such a long-term process.
And also, once you start giving those accommodations, sometimes people tend to abuse it. so that we've seen a lot of those cases. They would just, oh, this is family status, and as I said, we have to research as in, okay, what are the attempts you have made from your side to get a child care or to get a daycare, or what does your partner do?
Everybody has biases. And even you'll see, and there's some really great research that's been done in the US, that even, blacks may have biases against blacks, Asians may have biases against other Asians, women against other women. So it's to really understand the sources of those and working beyond them and making it okay to be inclusive and okay to accept differences. That takes some awareness.
For example, we had a transgender employee in our in Edmonton, and as an employee, they go through a lot of changes. When they're going through the process. So it is the responsibility of the organization to educate the people who work with them, because I might not know anything about what they're doing or what they're going through. So it's good to educate the employees as well who are working with them and make reasonable accommodations.
96% of professional truck drivers are men. And the employers I have talked to who have found women who are interested in that position are all raving about how well they do. They're better with equipment. They are not as aggressive when they drive. They're better with maintenance. They're better at keeping records. They're better at customer service. They're better at communications. I hate to say it, but they're pretty much better at it than everyone else.
We miss out on a whole bunch of opportunity to see life through different lenses. And I think that, in essence, is one of the strengths that we have in this country, in Canada, is that we do have so many diverse backgrounds and different opinions, and it's okay to be different in Canada. So let's embrace that and let's bring the differences into our workplaces.
The things that got us here are the things that are going to get us where we need to go. And so, looking at diversity of thought, looking at diversity of work styles, looking at different perspectives, the whole notion of unconscious bias really brings that to light, because what, groupthink isn't going to solve the problems that we don't even know are there yet. And so it's fantastic. One of the wonderful luxuries we have of working in Canada is we have a lot of people that come from a lot of different environments and different experiences, and they just have to ask the question, why do you do it that way? We do it this way here. And that causes innovation.
Our world is changing rapidly. And the only way we're going to be better and be more innovative and be more effective is to really embrace, the diversity of thought, diversity of people. And at the same time, you can't be diverse without being inclusive, because we have to appreciate those differences, but also make people feel that they belong as part of a broader mission, whether it's in an organization or in society.
We don't just stop because the projects stop. Now this is about translating this into our workforces, into our homes, into our daily life, on how we think, being more aware of what some of our own barriers and biases are, and working to change those so that we are more inclusive as a society. And then that will translate into inclusion in our workplace, which then translates into a much more economically rich and diverse Canadian economy.